Hello, good morning. So welcome to this extraordinary time, really. So I know I was laughing at myself that I'd written "Let's talk about sex and unicorns" because it's a bit clickbaity, isn't it? But actually, it's because I really want to talk to you about both of those subjects, and so I thought if I put them in the title, I will remember because there's this huge. Um, incredible layers and layering and revealing and unveiling and opening and transformation going on. And it's kind of going on in, I guess, multi-dimensional ways, and then it's kind of going on in the lower and the upper echelons, the lower echelons, and it's kind of going on in two timelines, and yet, you could just see it as a slow train and a fast train because ultimately, they will come up to the same level. So, that's being referred to by many people as the bifurcation. And so, welcome to this live on this day, where yesterday for me, we experienced a huge dimensional shift, which I felt in the early hours of the morning, and I recognized it not through tuning to Gaia, but through an experience that I'd had before, which was noticing, I am so attuned to the birds and awakened by the birds. And here in New Zealand, we have this magnificent bird that breaks the dawn called the tui. And the tui was not to be seen nor heard yesterday. And I have lots of birds in my garden that I can see from my bed and hear from my bed, including seagulls and doves. And we have a number of native doves, and we have a number of we have a number of native doves, and so they are often around, and the tuis and the sparrows and the finches and the kiriru, which is our amazing native pigeon. And there was nothing. And I see all of those birds and lots of white eyes and these beautiful coral-breasted finches, and yeah, there was nothing. And I'm like, wow. And I just lay with it because I was in bed, and I lay with it, and I had my eyes open and the drapes back, and I couldn't see anything. Not in the sky or in the tops of the trees. And it was like that for half an hour in silence. And so I noticed a woman I know from Sweden, that she commented today that that was her experience yesterday as well. So it was a very strong dimensional shift. And what is happening here right now in our world is that everything is happening so quintessentially in the physical. So today, for example, let's just talk about today. This morning, it was the dragons that showed up. The dragons showed up as exiting the center. So we have a lot of dragons in the inner earth. So the dragons showed up as entering or opening the vents of the planet, and the planet is beginning to pulsate, or will excuse me, will begin to pulsate soon. That's how I'm showing it. A long time ago, Gaia showed me that one of the first awakenings would be the elementals that are in the giant geode crystals in the center of the earth. And that would be the beginning of the awakening of the elementals. And, to me, they sit in the fourth dimensional space. They can move up and down easily, but they kind of are held in that invisible, like the world between worlds. And So the dragons, they've shown up in the inner earth as well. But this morning they showed up as opening the vents of the planet, and that the planet is beginning to be enlivened because of the elemental aspect, and that shows up to me as kind of this pulsing like this, that the planet will begin to pulse itself, not just the vibrational field of the planet, which I've spoken about before, but the actual planet that will look as though it's pulsating. It will feel that enlivened. So this is the beginning point of our experience of this on the physical. So that's one aspect that I definitely wanted to speak to you about this morning. And I don't know if there's anyone here yet. So this is not my normal time for doing a live at all. But anyway, I was inspired to jump on. I've got a few clients today. It's Sunday here, but I just really want to share the energy of what we are in the beginning experiences of. So we are going to find that it's easier now. It's easier because we're in this energy that supports us. We're in an energy that assists us in holding our frequency. The depths of the darkness and the shadow, they have dissipated. And on one level, we're in the looking at the polarities so that we can check into the neutral and the 0 point. And I have written a long list of those as well. So I'll just read my notes from yesterday, which was what I did as a post, and hopefully there'll be some people who jump on in a moment. So yesterday was the 16th here. Today is the 17th. So it's an 8-9-7 day, or a 7-8-9 day today. But we had a dimensional shift early yesterday morning, and you want to know how I knew? Because there was silence. There was stillness. That was the other thing. It wasn't just silence. There was no movement. There were no birds flying or singing. And I live on the edge of a piece of land filled with birds. The birds, in my opinion and experience, lead the way through the dimensional gateway. And I remember visiting a friend who lives on a land block up in Kurtunu, north of Whitianga, on the northern east coast of New Zealand, and she lives on top of a crystal mountain. And I remember the very first time I visited her, she said, "Wait for me at the gate so that then you can follow me up, because there's a number of driveways that roll off the road." So I was at the bottom of the driveway, and I pulled off and I got out, and it was that experience. I was like under a number of large trees, including Pahutakawa, which is a beautiful native flowering tree that we have here, and it's coastal and it's rugged, and it's can hang off the edge of cliffs on islands in the middle of the ocean. And I noticed the birds weren't there, and I noticed the stillness then. And when I tuned in, I spoke to the energetic of the birds, and that's what they said. We travel through the interdimensional gateways first. That's why we disappear, because we are breaking through. Anyway, was silent for half an hour early yesterday morning after dawn. No flying, no singing, and I did not catch sight nor sound for half an hour. They had shifted through. So I was remembering that experience of mine at the bottom of my friend's land. And I wrote, "Have a wonderful day, soak into the energies." These energies are bringing clarity, truth, and for many, a wash of tears. Just release, roll over, and feel the delight of the up-leveling, be in the unknown and the curiosity of what is. So I just want to reference back to some of those bits, even if I don't have time to give all of the updates today. But what is happening in our own individuality is that we have been in process. So we have been in process of up leveling, and we have done that through a process of getting to know who we are deeply, addressing our wounds, coming into wholeness, coming into balance, coming into alignment, moving more from the mind and into the heart, letting go of the old constructs, doing the work on those, recognizing the triggers, attending to them as we come into higher frequencies and receive more from the sun. The sun, we speak about the lights, the flares, the filaments from the sun affecting our bodies, firing us up. And I'm beginning to wonder if even this is happening, this live. It's so interesting. Let me just have a little look somewhere else. Just give me a moment. Maybe I should have checked that first. Oh yeah, it looks like I'm on there. Okay, so yeah, we're in the finishing aspects of this, and so lots of light workers who have an understanding of the process have been digging deep to assist the collective and rising it up out of the sort of dismal dark shadow intrusions. And now this morning someone sent me a passage from Rick Jewers, who spoke of this very thing using different languaging, but the same thing, that the weight is going to be alleviated from the light workers because it's become dense and heavy for us. And you no doubt will have been like me, where you just sort of cast to the couch or cast to the bed sometimes to have an extra sleep to catch up on the extra work and burdens that we've been carrying and clearing out the planet, the collective of humanity, so that we can all rise. So he's talking about that we'll do it in the way that, he's talking about it, we'll do it in sort of two phases. Guy's been speaking about us doing it in spirals, but yeah, the higher collective and the lower collective, if you like. So we've got that aspect going on. I might just, what I will do is perhaps put a link to that later on today when I come back in. I'll put a link to that in the chat. But Rick Jewers, it's something he put out today. So there's that. And then I really want to talk to you about the Divine Counterpart Collective and about what is happening specifically to the Divine Masculine at the moment. Excuse me. I have my coconut coffee. I'm having that. I have my first client in 40 odd minutes. So I don't have that long to be on here. But the sex part, that's why I wrote it. So I wrote about the unicorns, because the unicorn, I wrote that in the heading, because these are the elementals. These are the elementals. And I tell you what, you are going to begin to notice them, notice the rippling of the energies that they create in the field, and begin to try and connect into them, receive messages from them. They're playful and they are feeling safe enough to come out to play. So that's the unicorns, that's the Pegasus, that's the dragons. And the dragons, they can be like this big to being massive. And that's the all of the fairies and the fae and the pixies and the gnomes and all of those that work with the elemental aspects of our plant life. And so they are really going to start to make themselves known to you and make yourself available to be in communication and conversation with them. But this is really coming online strongly today as the earth is coming into its physical enlivenment, its physical, pulsation. And then the the sex aspect. So Gaia spoke to me quite some time ago, and I've referenced it a little bit, and it's always, it's always a bit challenging to speak about intimate things around sexuality and intimacy in a public forum when I'm just speaking to a screen, even though I know that many of you will listen to it, and that some of you are here, and 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 also it's hard to know what will be received and acceptable by YouTube. So let me just sort of go back a bit. How there was this time where I was shown that with the divine masculine, that there would be this element whereby they will be put pressure upon them to be in the right place with the right being at the right time through what was happening to their genitalia. So that's one thing, and I will reference a little bit more about that, but I'm just trying to give you an overview of it. That they were going to go through the divine masculine going through their transformation, their up leveling, their dimensional shift in a much faster way than the divine feminine. Now, be mindful, aware that each of us carry those energies, and I want to say this moment that we're either in or just ended being in has been this for me. It's been us as either in a feminine body or a masculine body with a predominant feminine energy or a predominant masculine energy coming into this higher alignment and balance. And now it's like we can hold ourselves to drop into the strength of our main thread of energy. So for me, that's being in my feminine, and for me, that's about dropping into that more. It's about dropping into, so my masculine and my feminine, they're in balance. The masculine aspect of myself is capable and competent and strong and active and able to hold the feminine element aspect of myself enough that my feminine can really come into her own now, really come into her beauty, her sensitivity, her femininity, her feminine sexuality. And I believe that that's now what is happening for the masculine, that they have done enough of that balancing up that now they can come into their own power and empowerment as the divine masculine. So that's one aspect that is occurring. And then what has been happening for the masculine in particular is that the 3D paradigms, the controlling mechanisms, the conditioning, the family patterning, the genealogical DNA impacting on what it is that men do, be, have, etc. In the old way has been leaving them, and it's been leaving them in such a strong way that they are now in the strong opening of their hearts, and their hearts are now challenging their old paradigms, and they are being moved by their hearts. And so the emotions, the emotional body, what sits within the masculine that hasn't been released, that has been held in there to maintain what they have believed needs to be their persona in the past, is coming up to be released and relieved. That many of the men in our world will be going through this. The men who have been coming to see me, they're showing up like this. They're showing up in this beauty, this power, this empowerment, with huge tears to come. A lot of driving from their hearts and from their sexual organs, and also they are in the most incredible integrity that I am touched. It is my absolute privilege and blessing to have been working with these men and to be witnessing that. So I don't know who's here, but it'd be nice to see you in the chat. Anyway, there's that aspect. And then, so if we just talk about the divine masculine for a moment, they are being compelled to be where they're meant to be and with whom they're meant to be. And it is happening through this examination, this deep examination of their old ways of being, which suddenly are not making sense to them. Compelled by the opening of their hearts as they're falling more into the recognition of this higher love and who that's with. And then it's also being propelled by their sexual organs because they are having experiences of having very intense physical experiences with their appendages, with their penis. And that is what Gaia spoke to me about some time ago, that it would get to a point where if the divine masculine wasn't with the person they were meant to be with, that they would begin to suffer discomfort through erection, and that their sexual release would not bring release and satisfaction. So it's a little bit challenging, I'd have to tell you, for me to speak about that in this forum, but it feels important. Mm. So that's kind of the experience. That's some of the feedback that I've been getting from people as well, and there's definitely, this kind of these elements: the head, the heart, the sexual organs, and integrity. This is what the main elements that the masculine are juggling at the moment. All right, so we are each exploring these things. So it's interesting. I'll just tell you the notes that I wrote on the 15th. Yeah, I'll just do this and then I'll need to go. So we are coming into ourselves, and the resistance that we have to acknowledging and accepting who we are is leaving. So I noticed, I spoke to a friend about this a couple of days ago, and I noticed that that has been showing up in a public way as well, where people are making or accepting and claiming who they are on the bigger scale. So the greatest version of ourselves is coming online to an extent that we can more readily accept it and find a way to state it, to articulate that. So I encourage you to sit in that, to feel into that, to feel into who you are as the greatest version of yourself, and write it out and claim it to yourself. And then you may wish to do more than that. Yesterday, the imagery that came for me was, in relation to the divine masculine, was the pedestrian crossings in Tokyo Square, which I think is called the Shibuya crossing, and I'll put a link to that, because that's where the masculine are at now. They are, the lights have gone green to cross, and they are all crossing to where they need to be. It's quite phenomenal. If you have ever been there, there's these multi-story screens. There's something like 5 different crossroads, and there's thousands of people that cross at the same time. I think I read something yesterday, it's 3,500 people move across that crossing every 3.5 minutes. So this was what I was, and I've lived in Tokyo, so that's, I could reference that. But in my mind's eye, yesterday morning when I was attuning to the energies, and I got that about the birds, and that came in, and then this imagery of the divine masculine and Shibuya crossing in Tokyo Square. The lights had gone green and they were all crossing. So they are definitely on the move. They're in the movement, in the physical. in the physical, tangible, and that is what is happening for us this month. This, as I described, the quantum month of September, everything is building, expanding, growing, accelerating, and there's a lot that's going to happen in our world. There's a lot that's going to be revealed on the world stage, but I'm just talking today about this revealing to self. So really feel into yourself and what sits there for you, what's arising for you that needs to be looked at and released, because we're on the end part of this. So yesterday was a 22 day, and I wrote on this 22 day recognize union. That is what came. It reminded me of the Mary Magdalene book called Remember Union. And I can't think who wrote that, I'm sorry. But that's what came to me when I wrote up the date. I got union in all ways, within self, all the polarities, masculine, feminine, dark, light, yin, yang, limited, limitless, sun, moon, dark, light, shadow, illumination, left, right, inner, outer, time, timelessness. And also huge sexual energies were just charging around the planet yesterday. And in and through, I was feeling them in my body, through my body, and around me. And that song was written by Salt and Pepper in the 70s. Let's talk about sex, baby. That was kind of running around my head. I had to look up who it was. Sleep, difficult to come in the night for me the last few nights. Remember that my night's not necessarily yours, that we were having sparkling, energetic implosions in the air that I didn't see physically, but I could see were happening in the physical. I got that it's getting very noisy for the Divine Masculine. That they are definitely in the letting go of the old. They're in the deep process of that. That hearts are being ripped open. So this is everybody now. The masculine are in the end part of that, the divine masculine. The collective is in the beginning part of that. Their hearts being ripped open so they can feel their way. They can feel their way rather than think their way. This new moon in September, Irene from Crystal and Indigo, she says that the goddess of the cosmic flame brings in this month into this purification, which we've been speaking about, and the divine order represented by the dove, which of course carries peace and purity. And so these are other words that we've spoken about. And I will just have a look here at a conversation that I had this morning. Yeah, with someone who was in the company of some men at a meeting yesterday and speaking about how aware and how awake they are, how conscious they are, and the kinds of conversations that they are having and the inquiries that they are making about the world and the way in which they're claiming themselves. And I want to tell you that a long time ago I was shown, I think, mid last year, I was shown that the change would come in our three-dimensional world when the collective of the men were in their power and they were fired up by their anger from their belly, from their lower dantian, to come into their warriorness, into their Māori, the stick is called tarako, into their, like, putting their stick in the ground and saying no, 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 and no, and rising up to say no on behalf of the children and of the women in the world. And it isn't through being aggressive, it's through being conscious, and it's through being grounded and empowered in their warriorness. So I will close here. There's more to come, but I feel to leave it here. I wanted to attend to those things so that you are aware, be in the space of holding space for your own empowerment of your own main energy, and of holding space for the men in our world to come into their um, hearts and into their lower dantian, and to be standing in their power, because this is where the world moves. This is where the movement and the physical will take place, and this nonsense, this intrusion from the shadow gets dissolved. So it gets dissolved on lots of levels, but we're in the physical dissolution now, and the men being in their empowerment is a part of that. So I wish you a beautiful weekend if you're just at the beginning of your weekend, or um, I wish you a beautiful close to your weekend if you are into a Sunday like me. And I will speak again soon. Much love.